Welcome, dear subscribers and curious listeners of my channel. Today I want to discuss important moments from the movie Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows that were cut or totally changed but could have significantly improved the perception of the film. I've mentioned many times that I love the atmosphere of the first part of Deathly Hallows, especially for its unusual tone, which stands out from the rest of the franchise. However, the film suffered greatly from the decisions made during the adaptation process. Without these cutscenes, the story feels somewhat incomplete, and viewers who are not familiar with the books might find it hard to understand what's going on. I won't say that the cut and changed scenes completely changed the situation, but they certainly add depth and cohesiveness to the narrative. Let's break down each of them. Number 1, I lost my sister. Petunia Dursley is a caricatured character whose role in the story has always been clear, and she almost never changes. But the cutscene shows her from a different side, allowing us to see a more humane side of this woman. In this scene, Harry persuades his aunt to leave the house to avoid the threat of Death Eaters. And at the moment of farewell, Petunia, for the first time in the film, opens up to him. "You weren't the only one who lost a mother that night in Godric's Hollow. I lost my sister." These words, though non-canon, would have been a powerful addition to the film and would have shown Petunia as a more complex character. Number 2, the right decision. The scene with Death Eater Yaxley, who arrives at the empty Granger house, isn't very significant but is interesting. Hermione, by warning her parents in time, sends them to Australia, thus saving them from danger. This scene doesn't change the main plot but would have shown Hermione's determination. Number 3, see you, Big D. As in the book, Dudley surprises Harry with a few kind words. This moment could have added depth to their relationship. In the cutscene, Dudley, showing unexpected care, tells Harry that he didn't take his place in vain, and even admits that Harry saved his life. This is not only sweet, but also gives hope for improving their relationship in the future. Number 4, technomagic. Arthur Weasley, who is fascinated by Muggle technology, uses his knowledge in this scene to create radio transmitters for the Order of the Phoenix. This shows his inventiveness and helps the viewers better understand why Ron uses these devices later in the film. Although it's not an important part of the plot, the scene reveals interesting aspects of the character. Number 5, late-night talks. In this cutscene, Hermione and Harry discuss where to look for Horcruxes while Ron rests. Ron reminds them of the taboo on Voldemort's name, which is crucial for their safety, but this scene was cut from the film. The taboo became the reason why Death Eaters found the trio so quickly in the cafe and destroyed the Lovegoods house, but this remains unclear to viewers in the film. Number 6, be careful, Arthur. In the cutscene, Arthur Weasley, in a conversation with Ron, disguised as Reg, tries to cheer him up and says that he and Molly will help if the situation with Mary gets out of control. Also, Harry warns Mr. Weasley that he is being watched. This scene is important for further plot development as it adds tension and hints at the safety of the Weasley family. Number 7, Ron and Hermione. Ron and Hermione spend time together, and although this scene isn't particularly important, it could have added some lightness to the film. The moment when Ron teaches Hermione the art of making pancakes is a great way to show their relationship. This simple but warm interaction would have added depth to their bond. Number 8, the secret of the locket. As Harry reached out to touch the Slytherin locket, a chill ran through his fingers. The coldness was unnatural, like something alive, gripping him with a force that made his skin crawl. The locket wasn't just an object, it was a dark presence, pulsing with malice. He could feel it in his bones, the way it seemed to draw him in. His hand trembled slightly, but he couldn't pull away. It was as if the locket was calling to him, whispering promises of power while simultaneously filling him with an undeniable sense of dread. It's not just a piece of jewelry, Harry thought, his mind racing. This is something far more dangerous. The moment he touched it, images flooded his mind, visions of destruction, darkness and evil. They twisted and spiraled, leaving him gasping for air. Hermione, standing next to him, watched in silence, her face pale. She could see the effect the locket was having on Harry, and she knew that it wasn't just the artifact that was dangerous. It was the temptation, the insidious whisper of power that it offered. "It's worth a fortune," Hermione had said earlier. But now, as she saw the raw fear in Harry's eyes, she understood that the true cost of the locket was far higher than anything they could afford. Harry's grip tightened around the dark object, his fear turning to determination. "We have to destroy it," he said, his voice hoarse. The battle wasn't just physical anymore, it was a war against the very darkness that Voldemort had spread across the world. The locket was more than just a Horcrux. It was a reminder of everything they were fighting against. Number 9. Farewell to Cedric. Harry sat alone in the dark room, the weight of his thoughts pressing down on him. He couldn't escape the image of Cedric Diggory, his face full of life, now gone forever. The memory of that night, the Triwizard Tournament, the moment when Cedric had fallen, lingered in Harry's mind. He thought back to that split second, when things could have been different. If only I had acted differently, Harry thought, his mind consumed with guilt. He felt the coldness of the empty room surround him, a reflection of the emptiness he now carried. "How could I have let this happen?" he whispered to himself. Cedric had been so full of promise, so alive. Harry had witnessed his death, helpless. The thought that maybe, just maybe, he could have done something to stop it tortured him. But here I am, Harry reflected bitterly, sitting in this darkness where no victory comes. His heart ached as he realized that not every battle ended with triumph. Some victories came at a price, and for Cedric, the price had been his life. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that his decisions had sealed Cedric's fate. The weight of that truth settled in his chest, heavier than any spell or curse. Number 10. The Legend of the Moon Goddess. One night, as they sat around the campfire, Hermione began to tell a story that had been passed down through the ages. Her voice was low and steady as she spoke of the ancient legend of the Moon Goddess. "The legend says that the Moon Goddess created the world during the night," she began, her eyes glimmering with the knowledge she held. She squeezed light into her hand and poured it onto the earth so that all living things could breathe. Harry listened intently, sensing the depth of the story, knowing that it held more than just myth. There was a purpose behind it, something that could guide them if they understood it correctly. Hermione's words weren't just a tale, they were a clue, a key to unlocking the next piece of the puzzle. "The light she left behind," Hermione continued, "is a guide. If we follow it, we will be on the right path." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The story of the Moon Goddess wasn't just a reflection of magical beliefs, it was an invitation to see the world differently, to look for magic in places they might have otherwise overlooked. Harry felt the weight of her words. They weren't just a story, they were a map, a direction. In the quiet of the night, as the fire flickered, he realized that magic wasn't just about spells and potions. It was about understanding the deeper truths that wove through the world, connecting everything in unexpected ways. Number 11. The Mirror of Edward. Harry stood in front of the mirror of Edward, his breath catching in his throat as he stared into its depths. The reflection before him was not his own. It was a version of himself he had always longed for. His parents, alive and well, stood beside him, smiling in the way he had always dreamed. For a moment Harry was lost, as if the world around him ceased to exist. He felt a rush of emotions, love, longing, and an overwhelming sense of loss. The mirror showed him not just what he wanted, but what he could never have. The temptation was unbearable, the pull of those imagined moments of happiness nearly too strong to resist. "It's not real, Harry," a voice echoed in the back of his mind. He knew it wasn't real, but still he couldn't tear his eyes away. The image in the mirror was everything he had ever dreamed of, a family, a life free from pain and sorrow. But deep down he understood that to indulge in the mirror's illusion was to abandon the reality of his life. He could not allow himself to be consumed by this false vision, no matter how much it tugged at his heart. The more he stared, the more he realized that this was not the path to healing. It was the path to losing himself. "Harry, you have to let go," a voice, perhaps his own, reminded him, but it was hard to hear over the roar of his emotions. The mirror didn't just show him his deepest desires, it showed him the danger of clinging to them. For a fleeting moment, Harry almost wished he could stay there forever, basking in the warmth of the family he had lost. But as he stepped back, the reflection began to fade, and he understood. The mirror was not a place for healing. It was a trap, luring him away from the life he had to live. "The truth is better than the dream," he whispered to himself, knowing that he had to move on, no matter how much the past called to him. Number 12. The Secret of Albus Dumbledore. In the dim light of the room, Harry sat across from Dumbledore, who looked older and more worn than ever before. The wise, unshakable figure that had guided Harry through so much was now vulnerable, revealing a side of himself that Harry had never seen before. The weight of Dumbledore's past seemed to hang in the air. He spoke quietly, as though every word was a struggle. "I have made mistakes, Harry," Dumbledore said, his voice softer than usual. "I have made many, and I fear I may never be able to fully fix them." Harry listened closely, sensing the depth of the regret in Dumbledore's words. For the first time, he saw the great wizard not as an untouchable figure, but as a man full of flaws and doubts. Dumbledore's confession wasn't just about the mistakes of his youth, but about the choices he had made in the present, the choices that had led to Harry's own pain. "I trusted the wrong people," Dumbledore continued. "I allowed my own desires for power and control to cloud my judgment. I believed I could control everything. But you, Harry, you have shown me what true courage looks like. It's not in the pursuit of power, but in the willingness to fight for what is right, no matter the cost." Harry felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Here, before him, was a man who had shaped the world around him, but was now acknowledging that he too had been wrong. And it was in that admission that Harry saw the true strength of character. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken words. Dumbledore wasn't looking for forgiveness. He wasn't asking Harry to absolve him of his sins. He was simply showing him the humanity behind the legend. "We all make mistakes, Harry, but it is in our power to correct them," Dumbledore said, his voice steady now, though his eyes still held a quiet sorrow. Harry's heart tightened as he realized that the great Dumbledore, the figure who had always seemed invincible, was just as fragile as anyone else. This was the lesson Harry needed most, to understand that greatness didn't come without its own burdens. "I will not live to see the full outcome of my actions," Dumbledore added. "But you, Harry, you have the chance to make things right. You have the strength to do what I could not." Harry sat still, absorbing the weight of Dumbledore's words. The old man had spent a lifetime fighting for a cause, only to realize too late that the cost of that fight had been greater than he could have imagined. "I'm not perfect, Harry," Dumbledore said quietly, "but I am trying to be better, and I hope that you too will learn to forgive yourself when the time comes." Harry nodded, understanding for the first time that even the greatest heroes had their flaws, and it was those flaws that made them human. Number 13. The Secret of the Golden Trust. Harry felt an eerie pull as he stared at the Golden Trust. The object lay before them, gleaming in the dim light, its smooth surface almost inviting. But something in the back of his mind warned him. This wasn't just an artifact, this was a piece of dark magic, something far more dangerous than it appeared. He could feel its weight, not just in his hands, but in his chest, as if the power it held was already starting to seep into his veins. Hermione, always the curious one, had begun to piece together its history. The Golden Trust was created centuries ago, a symbol of both eternity and strength. But in the wrong hands, it could be used for rituals that no one should dare to perform. "Do you think it's tied to the Horcruxes?" Harry asked, unable to look away from the golden emblem. The piece of jewelry seemed so innocuous, yet its aura was filled with malevolent energy. Ron, ever the skeptic, frowned. "I don't know, but it feels like something we shouldn't mess with," he muttered. The conversation shifted from speculation to caution. They all knew that in their quest to destroy Voldemort's soul fragments, they had to tread carefully. Every object, every symbol could be a clue or a trap. This was no exception. As they discussed the Golden Trust, it became clear that its connection to dark magic ran deep. Hermione found an old text describing its origins as a symbol of power used by witches and wizards who dabbled in forbidden magic. Over time, it had become a relic of those who sought eternal life, but it was also said to bring ruin to those who used it recklessly. The more they learned, the more they realized how easy it would be to fall into temptation. The Golden Trust was beautiful, but it was no mere treasure. It was a key to darker forces that could be unleashed with a single misstep. Harry's hand hovered over it, his fingers tingling with an almost magnetic force. The thought of taking it with them crossed his mind, but something stopped him. The power was too much. He had felt that familiar sense of dread before, when he had dealt with the Horcruxes and the deadly pull of Voldemort's influence. "I can't. It's too dangerous," Harry whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The Golden Trust was more than just an artifact. It was a reminder of how easily the line between power and corruption could blur. And in that moment, Harry knew that some mysteries were better left unsolved. Number 14, Hermione and the Memories. Hermione stood still for a moment, holding a small mirror in her hands. The reflection was blurry, but it was clear that something deeper lay behind her eyes. The mirror wasn't just a tool. It was the key to unlocking memories she had forced herself to forget. For months, Hermione had lived with the burden of leaving her parents behind to protect them. She had erased their memories of her, a decision that tore her apart each time she thought of them. The pain in her heart was evident in her eyes. It wasn't just the magic that hurt, but the truth that she might never see them again. This was the reality of war, choices that no one should have to make. Hermione, who had always been the strong one, the one with all the answers, now faced the harshest decision of her life. In a quiet moment, she tried to reach into her past, holding the mirror like a lifeline, hoping it would help her piece together the memories she had discarded. The spell she was about to cast wasn't simple, it was an act of desperation. Her hands trembled, not just from fear of failure, but from the weight of what she was about to do. "Do you think I want to forget them, Harry?" she had asked once, her voice barely above a whisper. Harry had never seen her like this, so broken. She had always been the one to lead, to guide, and yet, now, she was the one who was lost. The moment was heavy, both for Hermione and for Harry, who saw her pain reflected in every quiet glance she cast. Her moral struggle was more than just a choice. It was the essence of what the war had done to them all. Her eyes were filled with so much pain, Harry thought to himself, as if the weight of her decision echoed through the air. He could feel it too, the suffocating sense of sacrifice that she carried with her every day. Hermione's decision to erase her parents' memories wasn't just an act of magic. It was the heartache of someone who had to choose between love and survival. It was a reminder that in times of war, no decision is without a cost. Number 15, Neville's Curse. The deleted scene from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, where Neville Longbottom reflects on the tragic fate of his parents, offers a window into the profound emotional weight he carries as a character. It's a moment of raw vulnerability, a glimpse into the constant battle he faces in trying to reconcile his love for his parents and the harsh reality that they will never be the same. This scene would have added immeasurably to Neville's character arc, further enriching the narrative and giving the audience a deeper understanding of his heroic journey. In the film, Neville is often depicted as a loyal, courageous ally, standing beside Harry Potter when the chips are down, but his backstory is never fully explored. This omission is felt most keenly in his relationship with his parents, Alice and Frank Longbottom, two of the most respected auras in the wizarding world before they were tortured into insanity by Bellatrix Lestrange and other Death Eaters. They were not merely victims of physical torture, their minds were shattered beyond repair, leaving them in a constant state of madness, trapped within themselves. For Neville, their suffering is not only a source of grief, but also a daily reminder of his helplessness. He could not protect them, and he could never bring them back to their former selves. The deleted scene would have shown Neville confronting Harry with the truth of what happened to his family. The weight of those words, the acknowledgement that his parents, once powerful and full of life, were now nothing more than shadows of who they were, would have added depth to Neville's character. In a film series that is often characterized by moments of grief, sacrifice and resilience, Neville's internal struggle would have become a poignant counterpoint to the more immediate dangers Harry faces. Neville is not simply fighting the Dark Lord or standing with his friends. He is also fighting his own personal demons, haunted by the images of his parents who, though alive, are unrecognizable in their altered state. Neville's story is one of resilience. He does not seek pity. Instead, he channels his suffering into a quiet strength, one that is not about showing off or seeking attention. His bravery comes not from grand gestures, but from the way he faces his pain every day, despite it never fully going away. The film touches on his role as a determined fighter during the Battle of Hogwarts, but the deeper emotional toll of his past could have given that fight even more significance. By adding this scene, the audience would see the full spectrum of Neville's strength, not just his ability to stand up to evil, but his ability to endure and carry the burden of his family's fate without faltering. In the book, J.K. Rowling allows us into Neville's psyche in a way that the film could not. When he recalls his parents, the horror of what happened to them is almost too much to bear. Neville didn't look at them. They were alive, but their minds were lost forever. He often wondered if there was anything he could have done to save them, but it was impossible. These words resonate with anyone who has experienced loss, as they strike at the heart of a universal truth. Sometimes, no matter how much we wish otherwise, there is nothing we can do to change the past. Neville's suffering is not just about missing his parents, as he once knew them, but about the helplessness of being unable to do anything to alter their condition. It is this feeling of helplessness, paired with the courage to continue forward, that defines him as a hero. Neville's emotional burden doesn't just serve to deepen his character, it also serves to deepen the themes of the story. The fight against Voldemort and the Death Eaters is in many ways a fight against despair. The characters who face the greatest losses, the ones who have been broken by grief, are the ones who are able to rise above it and continue the fight. In the same way that Harry learns to cope with the death of his parents, Neville learns to live with the destruction of his family. In this context, his story becomes one of not just surviving but thriving in the face of overwhelming darkness. What makes Neville's story particularly powerful is that, unlike many of the other characters in the series, he doesn't have the same level of familial support or guidance. While Harry has the memories of his parents and Hermione has the unwavering support of her family, Neville is left with nothing but his own resilience. His strength doesn't come from a place of privilege, it comes from a place of pain, from the realization that his parents, the people he loved most in the world, were gone in a way that no spell could ever undo. In the final moments of the Battle of Hogwarts, Neville steps forward as a true hero, wielding the sword of Gryffindor and slaying the serpent Nagini, Voldemort's last line of defense. But this act of bravery would have carried even more weight if the audience had seen the depth of his personal tragedy. By standing up to Voldemort, Neville would not only be defeating the Dark Lord, he would be standing up to the pain that has defined his life. The fact that he is able to do this, to face down the worst of the worst and emerge victorious, speaks volumes about the resilience of the human spirit. Number 16, Ron and his dreams. In the world of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, there exists a scene that was ultimately cut from the film, yet its significance cannot be understated. The moment where Ron Weasley opens up to his friends about his internal struggles could have added a layer of depth to both his character and the story as a whole. As it stands in the book, the scene paints a poignant picture of Ron's vulnerability and the crushing weight of his self-doubt. This deleted scene, which portrays Ron as more than just comic relief or the loyal sidekick, offers a valuable glimpse into his psyche, allowing us to understand his emotional battles on a deeper level. Ron Weasley, for much of the series, has been the loyal and steadfast friend always by Harry's side, offering support, humor, and occasional bursts of bravery. However, beneath his often light-hearted exterior lies a boy with an overwhelming sense of insecurity. Throughout the narrative, it is clear that Ron, despite his talents and courage, has struggled with a nagging sense of inadequacy. This feeling grows exponentially during the events of Deathly Hallows, when Harry and Hermione are on the run, hunting for Horcruxes, while Ron is left to grapple with feelings of uselessness and fear. In the film, these inner struggles of Ron are somewhat glossed over, though the book provides rich insights. One of the most emotionally charged moments in Deathly Hallows comes when Ron confesses to Harry and Hermione that he feels like he's nothing more than the third wheel, the tag-along in their grand adventure. The deleted scene further explores these emotions, emphasizing that Ron's insecurity isn't just about being outshone by Harry's destiny or Hermione's brilliance. It's about his fear of never being enough. He feels as though, despite his best efforts, he will always be in the shadow of those he loves most. In the scene, Ron's emotional vulnerability is laid bare as he admits that he feels disconnected from the extraordinary events unfolding around him. He talks about his dreams of being someone more than just the funny one, the sidekick, or the brother. In a world filled with prophecy, heroism, and magical feats beyond anyone's wildest imagination, Ron sees himself as ordinary. He longs for something more, something that would give his life a sense of meaning and direction beyond simply being Harry's best friend. But these desires are clouded by his fear that he will always remain unimportant, trapped in the confines of his role within the trio. It is not just about the grandeur of destiny or fame, though. Ron's insecurities are tied to his deep sense of family loyalty and the weight of being the youngest son in a large, often boisterous family. His brothers, particularly Percy and Bill, have carved out paths for themselves, becoming heroes, successful professionals, or respected figures. Ron, meanwhile, feels as though he is always trying to catch up. This sense of inadequacy is compounded by the success of Harry, a boy he has known for most of his life, but who is marked as the chosen one. In the shadow of these remarkable figures, Ron's own dreams and aspirations seem insignificant, as though he doesn't fit in anywhere in the larger picture. The moment of his confession to Harry and Hermione would have allowed audiences to see just how deeply these insecurities run. Ron's vulnerability is something many readers can relate to, as it taps into the universal human fear of not being enough. His internal conflict is not just a matter of comparison to Harry's greatness or Hermione's intellect. It's about his own fear of failing to live up to his potential, of being unimportant despite all his efforts. This self-doubt plagues him, but the beauty of the scene lies in how he faces it. Despite feeling as though he doesn't belong in the same league as his friends, he never once falters in his commitment to them. In fact, his confession only highlights the strength of his loyalty, a loyalty that transcends his personal insecurities. The emotional depth in this scene goes beyond Ron simply stating his fears. It creates a powerful juxtaposition between the internal battle he faces and the external one he is fighting alongside Harry and Hermione. The story shows that courage does not always mean the absence of fear. Often, it is the act of confronting that fear, of facing one's darkest thoughts and continuing to move forward despite them, that defines true bravery. Ron may not see himself as a hero, but this scene demonstrates that his worth isn't defined by his magical prowess or the lack thereof. His strength lies in his ability to overcome the doubts that threaten to paralyze him. This scene would have also served as a moment of growth for Ron's character. For much of the series, Ron has been portrayed as the comic relief. He's the one who cracks jokes and lightens the mood in the darkest of times. But behind this humor is a boy who feels the weight of being overshadowed by his more famous and accomplished friends. The deleted scene would have given us a deeper understanding of how Ron's emotions evolve. It is in this moment where he expresses his deepest fears that we see him not as just a sidekick, but as an individual with his own struggles, desires, and dreams. Number 17. The Kiss Amid Destruction. The scene in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows where Harry and Ginny share a passionate kiss amidst the rubble of the war-torn castle was one of the most poignant moments that was ultimately cut from the final film. This moment, originally planned to be a climactic event in the evolution of their relationship, had the potential to convey the depth of their feelings for one another in a way that no other moment could. Though brief, the scene offered a meaningful glimpse into the resilience of love amidst the desolation of war, and the absence of this moment is keenly felt in the film. In the novel, their relationship had been slow to develop, with Harry and Ginny first beginning to form a bond during the events of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Their romance, though rooted in affection, had always been overshadowed by the dark clouds of Voldemort's return. Their moments together were fleeting, often interrupted by the looming sense of danger. Yet in the midst of it all, their connection was undeniable, and this scene, removed from the film, would have been the perfect emotional crescendo for their relationship. As Harry and Ginny stood together amidst the wreckage, the battle raging around them, their long-awaited kiss was more than a mere physical act. It was the culmination of everything they had silently endured: the fear, the pain, the longing. A symbol of love that had managed to survive in the darkest of times. The destruction surrounding them seemed to only highlight the significance of the moment. In the wake of such devastation, there was still room for tenderness, for connection, for hope. The visual of Harry and Ginny standing amidst the crumbled stones with the distant sounds of battle echoing in their ears added to the symbolism of their kiss. It was not just a romantic gesture, but a defiant stand against the forces that sought to tear their world apart. It was an affirmation of their belief that love could still bloom even in the most desperate of circumstances. In the novel, this moment was not just a plot device, but a pivotal turning point for both characters. Harry, who had long carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, finally found solace in Ginny, whose unwavering strength had been a source of support for him throughout the war. It was a moment of vulnerability, yet also one of empowerment, as they both realized that despite the darkness around them, they were not alone. The absence of this moment in the film left a noticeable gap in the emotional arc of their relationship. While the movie gave glimpses of their connection, it lacked the quiet intensity that this scene would have provided. It would have served as a powerful reminder that love, even in times of war, is a force that cannot be easily extinguished. In a way, their kiss symbolized the heart of the story itself, the belief that despite all the suffering and loss, the bonds we form with others remain a source of light and strength. When one looks at the book's portrayal of their relationship, the significance of this scene becomes even clearer. Throughout Deathly Hallows, Harry was constantly faced with choices that tested his beliefs in love, loyalty, and sacrifice. His relationship with Ginny was no exception. At times it seemed that the weight of the war would drive them apart, but this kiss, in its simplicity, was a powerful reaffirmation of their commitment to one another. It wasn't just a moment of passion, but a declaration that even in the midst of war they could still find peace in each other's arms. Ginny, for her part, had always been a beacon of strength. Unlike Harry, whose burdens were often internal and hidden from the world, Ginny's resolve was visible to everyone around her. She had grown from a young girl with a crush on Harry into a determined and capable young woman who was not afraid to stand her ground. This kiss was the moment where Harry truly realized that she was no longer just the younger sister of his best friend, but a woman with her own strength, her own purpose, and her own role to play in the war. Her love for him was not just about the boy she had admired from afar, but about the person he had become, someone worthy of her respect and affection. The original scene's location in the aftermath of the battle also carries significant weight. The ruins of Hogwarts were a direct representation of the costs of the war, a war that had taken away so many lives and irrevocably altered the course of their world. Yet in this moment of ruin, Harry and Ginny's kiss was a moment of pure, unadulterated hope. It was the kind of love that thrived in spite of loss, the kind of love that defied the odds. The act of kissing amidst the debris was an assertion that they were alive, that they were still capable of feeling joy, and that their love was still intact despite the destruction around them. The film's decision to cut this scene may have been based on the desire to maintain the pacing of the movie, or perhaps it was a conscious choice to keep the focus on the larger battle and the impending defeat of Voldemort. However, the emotional impact of this particular moment cannot be overstated. In a story about the triumph of good over evil, this kiss could have been a powerful representation of the small yet essential victories that make the fight worthwhile. It could have reminded viewers that even in the most violent of times, love and connection are what truly endure. Number 18. Friends in Danger. The deleted scene from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows that might have added a deeper layer to the film is one where the trio, Harry, Hermione and Ron, find themselves trapped by Death Eaters. In this tense moment, their unity, the very thing that has held them together throughout the series, becomes their saving grace. It's a scene that would not only heighten the emotional stakes, but also serve as a reminder of the power of friendship and loyalty, a theme that has been central to the entire Harry Potter saga. As the trio stumbles through the dark, tangled forest, their surroundings eerily silent, except for the occasional rustle of unseen creatures, they are suddenly ambushed. The Death Eaters, ever vigilant and deadly, have set a trap. In the midst of their frantic escape, the trio realizes that there is no way out. They are surrounded. The tension is palpable as the ominous steps of their pursuers echo through the night air. The trap is complete, and they are about to be caught. But what happens next is a reflection of the deep bond that has carried them through so many trials before. Harry, ever the leader, stands in front of Hermione and Ron trying to assess the situation. The weight of their predicament presses heavily on him. He knows the danger is real. The Death Eaters will stop at nothing to capture them. Yet in this moment, it's not just the physical danger that threatens them, but the overwhelming emotional strain of the entire war. The exhaustion, the fear, and the uncertainty all culminate in this critical juncture. But as the footsteps draw nearer, the trio doesn't falter. They instinctively fall into their familiar roles, their unity, their greatest strength. Ron, despite his usual anxiety in such situations, steps up with the same determination he's shown countless times before. It's not bravery in the traditional sense, rather it's the quiet, unspoken courage that comes from knowing you're not alone. Hermione, always the logical one, quickly calculates their options, knowing full well that any decision made could be the difference between life and death. She reaches out to grab Ron's hand, offering him a sense of reassurance in the most perilous of circumstances. Her grip is firm, and the two share a brief, unspoken understanding. They're in this together, as they always have been. But it's not just the immediate danger that is significant, it's the symbolism of the moment. Harry, Hermione, and Ron have been through so much. They've faced dangers and unimaginable horrors, but never before have they been so close to the end. In that instant, the trio's bond is more than just friendship. It's a lifeline. Harry's mind races as he searches for a way out, but it's Hermione's calm and Ron's quiet support that bring him back to focus. Their solidarity is what saves them. The trio, against all odds, manages to escape, not because of their individual strengths, but because they've learned to rely on one another. The scene, while not essential to the core plot of the movie, would have added emotional depth to the narrative. It highlights the importance of their connection and the trust they place in one another. It underscores the fact that while the Deathly Hallows and the quest to defeat Voldemort may be their primary focus, their friendship is what truly keeps them going. The support they provide each other is not just a side note to their journey, it's the very foundation of their survival. In this deleted moment, we see a reflection of what has always been at the heart of the series, the power of loyalty and love. Harry, Hermione, and Ron may each be individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses, but together they are formidable. The trio has faced dark forces, betrayal, and loss, yet their unwavering support for one another has been their greatest weapon. This scene would have driven that message home in a powerful way, showing how, even in the direst circumstances, their unity is what makes them stronger. One of the most significant aspects of this scene is how it reveals the characters' growth. When they first came together, their bond was formed from necessity, and they quickly learned to trust each other in their adventures. Over the years, however, they have become more than just companions. They have become a family. This scene would have further emphasized that evolution. It would have been a testament to how far they've come, not just in their magical abilities, but in their emotional resilience and their ability to work as a cohesive team. At the heart of this moment is the idea of sacrifice. Throughout the series, the trio has faced situations where one or more of them has had to put themselves in danger for the sake of the others. This scene would have been no different. The tension in the air as they faced the Death Eaters would have showcased how they've learned to protect one another, even at great personal risk. It's a reminder that the stakes are high, but so are the bonds they share. Each one of them would gladly lay down their life for the others, and that willingness to sacrifice makes their friendship all the more meaningful. The deleted scene also speaks to the larger theme of hope. In the darkest moments of the war, when it seems like all is lost, it's often the smallest acts of kindness and loyalty that make the difference. This scene would have been a poignant reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the trio's unwavering faith in one another is a source of light. They may not have all the answers or solutions, but together they can face whatever challenges come their way. In the final analysis, while this deleted scene might not have advanced the plot significantly, it would have added a crucial emotional layer to the film. It would have shown viewers that above all else, the strength of the trio lies in their friendship. Through the dangers they face, the trials they endure, and the sacrifices they make, it is their bond that keeps them grounded. The scene would have served as a reminder that, in the end, love and loyalty are the most powerful forces at play. In many ways, the omission of this scene left a gap in the film's emotional resonance. While the movie does show the trio's loyalty to one another, this scene would have underscored it in a more visceral, dramatic way. It would have added weight to their eventual triumph over Voldemort, showing that their victory was not just the result of magic or bravery, but also of the strength that comes from a deep and enduring friendship. By not including this scene, the filmmakers missed an opportunity to further highlight the theme of unity in the face of adversity. The moment where Harry, Ron, and Hermione stand together, united by their friendship, would have been a powerful visual representation of everything they had fought for throughout the series. Their bond was the one thing Voldemort could never destroy, and this scene would have encapsulated that truth perfectly. It's a reminder that no matter how dark the world may become, the light of friendship and loyalty will always shine through. Number 19, A Visit to Hogsmeade. The scene where Harry, Ron, and Hermione decide to take a brief respite from their arduous mission to destroy Horcruxes by visiting Hogsmeade was one of the most poignant moments in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Though ultimately cut from the film, this sequence holds a significant emotional weight. It is in this short visit to the magical village that the trio briefly reconnects with their lost childhood, reclaiming a piece of the world they once knew and loved. It is a moment of escape, an illusion of normalcy amidst a world consumed by darkness and war. The decision to visit Hogsmeade is not merely about nostalgia, it's a subtle yet powerful reminder that even in times of war, the human need for connection, comfort, and joy is irreplaceable. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione step onto the familiar path leading to Hogsmeade, the weight of their burdens momentarily lightens. They are no longer fugitives on the run or warriors in a war. They are simply three friends revisiting a place that had once been their sanctuary. In the bustling days of their youth, Hogsmeade had been a place of laughter, a place where they could savour the sweetness of life before the shadows of war began to creep into their world. But now as they return, it is different. The innocence of their first visits is long gone. They are no longer the same three children who had first walked the cobbled streets of the village, exploring the wonders of Zonko's joke shop or sipping butterbeer at the Three Broomsticks. Time has stripped away their carefree days, replacing them with an urgency driven by the need to destroy the remnants of Voldemort's soul. Yet, in that fleeting moment, Hogsmeade becomes a place where they can momentarily forget their daunting quest. Walking along the well-worn path, Harry feels a sense of exhaustion, not just from the long days spent hunting Horcruxes, but from the emotional toll that the war has taken on him and his friends. The physical fatigue they feel is matched only by the mental and emotional strain of their mission. But in the quiet of the familiar surroundings, a slight relaxation overtakes Harry. His tired smile spreads across his face, a subtle, almost imperceptible change that signals a brief relief from his inner turmoil, there in that fleeting smile. One can almost sense the return of the boy who had once found joy in the simplest of things, like a trip to Hogsmeade with his closest friends. The memories of their past seem to flood him, and for a brief moment he is transported back to a time when the world seemed far less complicated. It is significant that the trio's visit to Hogsmeade does not occur in the midst of a battle or after a fight. It is a quiet, almost meditative moment. There are no grand speeches, no dramatic confrontations. Instead, it is a simple return to a place where they once felt safe. This is the essence of what has been lost in the years since they first set foot in Hogsmeade: safety. It is a subtle acknowledgement that despite the horrors they have faced, the longing for peace and normalcy still exists. The short scene, though brief and understated, encapsulates the essence of what it means to be human in a time of crisis, to seek out moments of reprieve, even if only for a moment, in the midst of overwhelming chaos. The decision to visit Hogsmeade is an act of resistance, not against an enemy, but against the erosion of their own spirits. It is their way of clinging to the hope that some semblance of normal life is still possible. In the film, the decision to cut this scene feels like a missed opportunity. Though the film captures the urgency of the trio's mission, it does so at the cost of the quieter, more reflective moments that defined much of the book. In J.K. Rowling's Deathly Hallows, moments like these, the return to Hogsmeade, the small conversations, the shared silences, help to balance the overwhelming tension of their quest. These moments provide the emotional grounding necessary to make the climaxes feel more impactful. Without them, the film's portrayal of the trio's journey feels less connected to the underlying themes of friendship, sacrifice, and the preservation of humanity amidst war. These small, personal moments are integral to understanding the true weight of their mission, for it is not only about the survival of the wizarding world, but also about the survival of their very selves. The contrast between the past and the present in Hogsmeade is stark. Before the war, Harry, Ron, and Hermione had visited Hogsmeade as students, free to explore the village and enjoy the pleasures of their youth. They had been on the cusp of adulthood, but they had not yet been fully burdened by the responsibilities that would soon follow. Now, as they stand in the same streets, they are no longer the same people. The carefree days of their youth have been replaced by the harsh realities of a world at war. Yet it is not just the physical changes in Hogsmeade that affect them. It is The emotional weight of what the place represents, it is a symbol of all that has been lost, of the innocence and joy that war has stripped from their lives. The very idea of revisiting Hogsmeade is an attempt to reclaim a small piece of their childhood, a fleeting return to a time when they did not have to carry the burden of the world on their shoulders. The choice to focus on Hogsmeade in the narrative is not only a sentimental one, it is a thematic choice that enhances the central idea of the book. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is not just about the battle between good and evil, but also about the internal battles that each character faces. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are fighting not just for the survival of the wizarding world, but for their own emotional and psychological survival. The war has already taken so much from them. Their safety, their homes, their families, and they are struggling to hold on to what little remains. The visit to Hogsmeade is a subtle way to show that even in the darkest times, moments of human connection and joy are worth striving for. These moments are what sustain them, what remind them of the reasons they are fighting. The village of Hogsmeade, with its cobbled streets and quaint shops, serves as a metaphor for the world that the trio is fighting to protect. It is a world where magic still holds the power to awe and inspire, where children laugh and play without fear, and where the bonds of friendship are formed and nurtured. It is a world they want to restore, even if only in small ways. The village is a beacon of the life they hope to return to, a life where the horrors of war are distant memories. It is here, in the quiet solitude of Hogsmeade, that they are reminded of the strength of their bond, of the friendship that has seen them through so many trials. As they walk through the village, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are not just walking through the past, they are walking toward the future they hope to build, one where the sacrifices of war will have been worth it. This scene is also a reminder of the passage of time. Just as the trio has changed, so too has Hogsmeade. The village may look the same on the surface, but beneath it lies the knowledge that everything has been altered by the war. The presence of death and destruction looms over them, even in this place that once felt safe. Yet in the quiet of the village there is still hope. The visit to Hogsmeade is a brief return to that hope, a reminder that despite everything, there is still beauty and comfort in the world. It is these small moments, these quiet interludes of joy, that make the trio's journey worth it, and ultimately, it is these moments that will carry them through to the end of their quest. The absence of this scene in the film makes its loss all the more significant. In a movie that focused so much on the urgency of the battle against Voldemort, it was easy to forget the importance of these quieter moments. But it is precisely these moments that make the victories so meaningful. Without them, the film loses some of the emotional depth that makes the story resonate with viewers. The decision to omit this scene might have been made for pacing reasons, but in doing so, the film lost an opportunity to highlight the emotional heart of the story. It was a moment where Harry, Ron, and Hermione were not just warriors, but children, once more, seeking solace in the world they had once known. Number 20, Dumbledore and his family. The scene where Albus Dumbledore reveals the dark history of his family to Harry Potter in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is one that, if included in the film, could have deepened the emotional weight of the narrative and added layers to Dumbledore's character that remain mostly unexplored in the movie. This deleted scene was not just a look at the past of the great wizard, but an intimate portrait of the man behind the persona, showing his flaws, regrets, and the complex relationships that shaped him. In the film, there are only brief hints about Dumbledore's troubled family life, but the deleted scene would have provided a more poignant exploration of how those family dynamics, particularly his relationship with his brother, Aberforth, and his misguided youthful idealism played such a significant role in the development of his magical destiny. In the book, Dumbledore's past is filled with the shadows of mistakes and tragic choices, and this was the side of him that Harry was not fully aware of until much later in their relationship. Harry had always seen Dumbledore as the wise, omnipotent headmaster, a figure of knowledge and power, but this scene reveals a vulnerability that had been long buried. Harry learns that Dumbledore's family was torn apart by deep-seated issues that he could never escape. The family was not just a source of pain for Dumbledore, but also a lens through which his personal ideals and desires for a better world were both realized and destroyed. As Harry asks Dumbledore about his family, we see the headmaster's initial discomfort, the way he pauses before answering. Dumbledore's sigh is not just the exhalation of a wizard weighed down by the years, but a deeper, more emotional release. His family, he explains, had been like sunbeams breaking upon the stones, bright and full of promise, but ultimately fragmented by strife. The pain in his words speaks not only to the brokenness of his own childhood, but also to the disillusionment that followed his youthful ambitions. Dumbledore, in his youth, was driven by the idealistic notion that he could change the world, that his family and his vision could be part of something greater. However, his early dreams were tainted by an ambition so strong that it led him down a dangerous path. The tragic part of his journey was the realization that some mistakes, particularly the ones that affect the people we love, could never be undone. Albus was not only crushed by the weight of these mistakes, but he was also forced to live with the consequences which reverberated throughout his entire life. The relationship between Dumbledore and his brother Aberforth is a focal point of this backstory. Aberforth, much more grounded and skeptical than his older brother, was not willing to follow Dumbledore's grand ideals. He was the practical, protective one, and his bitter feelings toward his brother's actions, particularly the tragic event involving their sister, Ariana, remained a source of deep conflict between them. The strained relationship between the two brothers was rooted in a tragic incident that led to Ariana's death, an event that Dumbledore never fully forgave himself for. Dumbledore's idealism blinded him to the consequences of his decisions. He believed in the greatness he and his family could achieve, not realizing the dangers that ambition posed. His obsession with achieving a better world led him to form dangerous alliances, particularly with Gellert Grindelwald, a brilliant but dark wizard. Together they dreamed of a new world order where wizards ruled over muggles for the greater good. But the friendship soured when Grindelwald's thirst for power became apparent. Dumbledore's regret over that part of his life, particularly the fallout from his relationship with Grindelwald, haunted him for the rest of his life. The deleted scene would have allowed viewers to understand the depth of Dumbledore's guilt. It would have provided a crucial piece of the puzzle as to why Dumbledore was so secretive, so removed from the emotions of those around him. His ambition, his desire to right the wrongs of the world, had come at a terrible price. He had sacrificed not only his own family, but his own peace of mind in pursuit of this ideal. And yet, despite the enormous personal toll it took, Dumbledore's mission to protect Harry and fight against Voldemort remained his singular focus. The scene shows how these formative experiences shaped Dumbledore's actions, not as a distant mentor, but as a flawed, complex person who had lost and loved deeply. In a pivotal moment of reflection, Dumbledore shares his feelings of self-loathing, a sentiment that would resonate with Harry, who himself struggles with feelings of inadequacy and guilt. Dumbledore's confession that some mistakes remain within a person forever, no matter how much they try to atone, mirrors the very nature of the conflict that defines Harry's journey. For Harry, the lesson in this revelation is crucial. Even those who seem untouchable, even those who embody wisdom and strength, are human, shaped by their own experiences and haunted by their own regrets. The deleted scene also offered a deeper insight into Dumbledore's character, showing that even as the headmaster of Hogwarts, he was still grappling with his past. The image of Dumbledore, a man with so much power and influence quietly revealing his painful memories, challenges the image of the flawless leader that many characters, and the audience, may have had. Dumbledore's personal turmoil makes his sacrifices and his commitment to Harry all the more powerful. It paints him not as a saint, but as someone who continually chose to rise above his past, driven by a sense of responsibility for the future. By omitting this scene, the film missed an opportunity to showcase Dumbledore's vulnerability in a more profound way. The film version presents him as a distant, almost untouchable figure, while the book offers a more humanized portrait. His moments of doubt, his recognition of his mistakes, and his subsequent growth into the wise leader he became are all elements that make him one of the most compelling characters in the Harry Potter series. In the scene, Dumbledore's admission about his personal failings not only enriches his character, but also highlights the universal nature of his struggles. The choices we make, especially those motivated by youthful idealism and ambition, can shape our lives in ways we may not fully understand until it's too late. The family that Dumbledore lost, the ideals he pursued, and the guilt he carried all become key themes that resonate throughout the series. These are not just themes of magic or fantasy, but of real, human experience, the pain of loss, the consequences of actions, and the pursuit of redemption. This deleted scene ultimately adds a layer of complexity to Dumbledore's character that the films, with their need for brevity, could not fully capture. It shows that Dumbledore was not only a mentor and a hero to Harry, but also someone who had suffered and learned from his own tragic past. For Harry, this moment of revelation would have been critical in understanding the true nature of the man who had guided him so selflessly. It would have helped Harry realize that his own journey, with its own set of losses and mistakes, could still lead to something greater. Without this scene, Dumbledore's legacy remains a bit distant, a figure cloaked in mystery, but the deleted scene could have solidified his place not just as a wise mentor, but as a deeply flawed individual whose personal journey mirrored Harry's own struggles. It would have added an emotional depth that would have made Dumbledore's eventual death and the revelation of his past even more poignant. Number 21, Ron and Hermione. The first fight. The scene was one of those moments in life when everything seemed to be teetering on the edge. The thick oppressive silence hung over the trio like a storm cloud, one that was bound to break. The night was cold and biting, the darkness of the forest amplifying their exhaustion and frustration. They had been traveling for days, searching for Horcruxes, navigating a world that was rapidly becoming more hostile and unpredictable. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were all drained, emotionally and physically, from the stress of their mission, but it was the tension between Ron and Hermione that was becoming increasingly impossible to ignore. Ron's temper had been simmering for a while, and in this moment it finally exploded. It wasn't just one thing that had set him off, it was a culmination of everything. The long hours, the constant danger, the lack of food, and the exhaustion had all built up, and now his frustration was aimed squarely at Hermione. He had always been the one to joke around, the one to keep the mood light, but in these dire circumstances he was losing his patience with her. He turned to her abruptly, his face flushed with frustration, and his voice cracked with a harshness that caught even Harry off guard. "You can't solve everything your way, Hermione." Ron's words were sharp, each one landing like a blow. We're all in this together, but you always act like you're the only one who knows what to do, like we're just supposed to follow you around and do what you say. Hermione was taken aback. She had been used to their playful arguments, the occasional bickering between them, but this was different. This wasn't the usual teasing or disagreement. There was something deeper, something raw in Ron's voice. She had always been the one to take charge in their group, the one with the plan, and for the first time it seemed like Ron was resenting her for it. She clenched her fists, trying to contain the hurt that bubbled inside her. "I'm not alone, Ron. We're all in this together, aren't we?" she shot back, her voice trembling with anger. "You always say I'm in charge, but I'm just trying to make sure we survive. And you never listen. You're always too busy making jokes or sulking to actually help." Harry, standing between them, felt a pang of guilt. He had seen them argue before, but never like this. They had always been able to laugh it off, to move on. But this was different. This was a moment when their bond was being tested in ways they hadn't anticipated. Harry could see the way Hermione's face tightened, the way Ron's shoulders tensed, as though they were both bracing for something that neither of them were prepared for. Ron took a step forward, his frustration boiling over. "I don't need to be treated like a kid, Hermione. I'm not a bloody fool." His voice echoed through the cold night air, a raw sound that cut through the stillness of the forest. "I know you're trying to help, but sometimes it feels like you're the only one who gets a say in everything." Hermione's face flushed with anger, and for a moment Harry saw her fighting to keep her composure. Well, maybe if you took things more seriously instead of complaining all the time, we'd be making more progress, Ron. Her words stung, and for the briefest moment, Harry thought he saw a flicker of pain in Ron's eyes. But the moment passed, and it was replaced by the harshness of his frustration. The argument between them wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was the culmination of months of stress, danger, and fear. They were three people in a war, bound together by their shared mission, yet pulled apart by the very forces that threatened to destroy the world around them. The pressure of the Horcrux hunt, the uncertainty of their future, the weight of the war. It was all too much, and it was splintering their once unshakable bond. In this moment, neither Ron nor Hermione could see past their own frustrations. Hermione had always been the one who held them together, the one who kept their spirits up with her knowledge and determination. But in Ron's eyes, it often felt like she was doing it all on her own, as though he was just an afterthought, a tag-along in her grand plan. And for Hermione, it felt like Ron was always dragging his feet, making jokes at the worst times, and never taking things seriously enough. The truth was, neither of them was wrong, but neither of them was truly hearing the other either. Hermione, in her desire to protect them all and to keep moving forward, was unintentionally pushing Ron away. Ron, in his frustration, was lashing out at the one person who had always been there for him. They both wanted the same thing, to survive, to defeat Voldemort, to protect Harry. But they were so wrapped up in their own emotions and fears that they couldn't see how they were hurting each other. Harry knew that he couldn't fix this, that the only way through this was for Ron and Hermione to work it out themselves. But it wasn't going to be easy. They had always been able to rely on each other, but now, in the face of this new and terrifying reality, they were discovering that even the strongest friendships could falter under the pressure. Quiet, supportive bond that had once existed between them was now overshadowed by resentment, misunderstanding, and the weight of the world on their shoulders. This scene, though brief, was a pivotal moment in their relationship. It revealed the cracks that had begun to form beneath the surface, the growing tension that had been building for months. It was a reminder that despite their love for each other, Ron and Hermione were still young, still learning how to navigate the complexities of their feelings. It showed that even in the midst of war and uncertainty, relationships were messy, and that sometimes the hardest battles weren't fought with wands, but with words. For Hermione, it was a lesson in vulnerability, in realizing that she couldn't always be the one in control, that sometimes she needed to lean on Ron, to trust him, to listen to him. For Ron, it was a lesson in patience, in learning to accept that Hermione wasn't perfect, that she had her own insecurities and fears, and that he needed to support her, not criticize her. But neither of them could learn these lessons if they didn't face their differences head-on, if they didn't have the courage to say the things that were hard to say. In the film, this scene was ultimately cut, and perhaps it was for the best. The movie was already brimming with action and tension, and the pacing may have been disrupted by such an intense, emotional confrontation. But in the book, this argument was an important moment of growth for Ron and Hermione. It was a necessary step in their relationship, one that paved the way for the deeper bond they would form as they continued their journey together. Ultimately, this cutscene, while small in the grand scheme of things, carried immense significance for their dynamic. It was a reminder that even the most unshakable relationships could be tested by the pressures of war and fear. It was also a testament to the importance of communication, of listening to one another, and finding ways to reconcile when misunderstandings arise. If anything, it made their eventual reconciliation and eventual love story all the more powerful. It showed that despite their differences, they were always meant to be together. Not because they were perfect, but because they learned how to love each other through the imperfections. Number 22, Lost Memories. The moment Hermione Granger uses the Obliviate spell on her parents in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows stands as one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the entire series. In the book, it's a necessary but devastating decision she makes in order to protect her family. However, the film's depiction of the scene lacks the depth and emotional weight that the written text conveys. The film shows Hermione returning to her parents' house to erase their memories of her, but it does so in a very brief, almost clinical manner. We never truly see the full impact of what this moment costs Hermione. The cut scene, which was left on the cutting room floor, offers us a glimpse into the painful struggle Hermione endures as she wipes out the very essence of her relationship with her parents. This loss is not just a plot point, it's a pivotal moment of personal sacrifice that defines Hermione's strength and inner turmoil. In the deleted scene, Hermione's decision is far from simple. She doesn't act immediately, instead, she hesitates. There are several long moments in which she stops, her hand trembling over her wand as she stares at her parents, knowing that what she is about to do will forever change their lives. As she recites the incantation, the camera lingers on her face, showing the raw emotion that flickers across her features. Her eyes glisten with unshed tears, and her lips quiver with the weight of the choice. She isn't just erasing memories, she is erasing herself from their lives. Every image of herself as their daughter, every tender recollection, every family dinner, every small joy they shared, all of it will be gone. Hermione is not just using magic to protect them from the dangers of the wizarding world. She is making an irreversible sacrifice, severing her bond with the very people she loves the most. The depth of this sacrifice is brought to the forefront in the deleted scene. As Hermione chants the spell, she is visibly torn. The magic seems to have a physical weight on her as she struggles to maintain control. The tears that begin to form in her eyes are not just out of sadness, they are the embodiment of the deep emotional conflict she feels. She knows that this is the only way to keep her parents safe, but that knowledge does not make the act any easier. Her heart breaks with each word she speaks, and the act of erasing their memories becomes a form of self-inflicted punishment. The struggle is not just for her parents' safety, but for her own humanity. In the original scene from the book, J.K. Rowling writes, "Hermione closed her eyes as the spell took effect. With each word, her heart broke. She was removing every trace of her life, every moment her family had spent with her. This internal devastation is something the film captures only fleetingly, but the deleted scene expands on it in a way that makes Hermione's actions all the more tragic and heroic." The emotional depth that is missing in the final cut of the film would have added so much to the character of Hermione Granger. Throughout the series, she is often portrayed as the practical one, the one who thinks ahead, who keeps her emotions in check, and who solves problems with logic and reason. But this deleted scene reveals a vulnerability in her that we rarely see. In this moment, Hermione is not just a brilliant witch. She is a daughter, a friend, and a person who has to make the most excruciating choice of her life. The weight of the decision hangs over her, and yet she knows that there is no other option. Her family is in danger, and the only way to keep them safe is by erasing their memories of her entirely. The decision to leave this scene out of the final cut is a curious one, given how much it reveals about Hermione's character and the sacrifices she makes. The film version shows her returning to her parents' house, casting the spell, and then immediately leaving with barely a second glance. The camera does not linger on her face, nor does it offer a moment of reflection. Instead, it cuts quickly to the next scene, and Hermione's internal conflict is never fully explored. The deleted scene, however, gives us a deeper look at the turmoil inside her. She is not acting out of cold logic or a sense of duty alone. She is acting out of love, fear, and the desperate hope that this will protect the one she holds dear. It is a moment of raw emotion, one that could have added tremendous depth to the film. Hermione's decision to erase her parents' memories is not just a personal sacrifice, it is also a moment of profound heroism. It speaks to the very essence of what it means to be a hero in the wizarding world. A hero is not someone who seeks glory or recognition, but someone who makes difficult choices for the greater good, even at great personal cost. Hermione Granger exemplifies this in her decision to sever her connection to her family in order to protect them from the dangers of Voldemort's regime. Her willingness to put the safety of others before her own happiness is what makes her one of the most heroic characters in the series. By removing the scene that delves into her emotional struggle, the film loses an important opportunity to showcase the depth of Hermione's heroism. In the deleted scene, Hermione's actions are not portrayed as a mere act of survival, they are portrayed as an act of love. She is not just protecting herself or her parents, she is protecting their memories of her, their connection to her. The spell she casts is not just a way to erase information, it is a way to erase a part of herself. The emotional toll of this decision is far greater than the practical necessity of it. This is not simply a plot point in the story, it is a defining moment for Hermione as a character, and one that is too significant to be glossed over in the film. It is an act of emotional bravery, one that speaks to the sacrifices that must often be made in the fight against evil. The lost scene would have also provided a poignant contrast to the other moments of sacrifice in the Deathly Hallows narrative. Throughout the story, characters make difficult decisions that reflect their commitment to the cause and the greater good. Harry Potter sacrifices his own life. Ron Weasley leaves his family to fight alongside Harry, and even Neville Longbottom takes a stand when the odds are stacked against him. Hermione's sacrifice is equally important, but it is quieter, more personal. It's not about fighting in a battle or making a dramatic stand. It's about the quiet, painful decision to give up something fundamental to who she is in order to protect the ones she loves. Had this deleted scene been included, it would have enriched the film's portrayal of Hermione Granger, giving the audience a better understanding of her internal struggle and the depth of her love for her family. It would have been a powerful moment of personal sacrifice, a tragic but necessary act that elevates the character and the story as a whole. In the end, Hermione's choice to erase her parents' memories is not just a plot point, it is a moment that defines her as a hero in her own right. The emotional weight of this scene would have made the film's portrayal of Hermione all the more impactful, allowing the audience to feel the gravity of her sacrifice and the depth of her love for her parents. Number 23. The Mystery of the Ancient Ruins. The scene unfolds in a place where time seems to have paused, a forgotten corner of the wizarding world steeped in centuries of mystery. Harry Potter, along with his companions Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, steps carefully across the uneven ground, eyes scanning the dense foliage and weathered stone. The trio is far from the safety of Hogwarts, out on their quest to find and destroy the Horcruxes that are essential for their victory over Lord Voldemort. But in this place they stumble upon something even more elusive, something hidden in the ruins of an ancient magical site that promises to deepen their understanding of the dark forces they are fighting. The ruins, long abandoned, speak of an age when magic was not merely a tool, but a language, an intricate part of the world itself. The air around them is thick with the crackling energy of magic that has lain dormant for so long. Harry, leading the way, is acutely aware of how the atmosphere shifts as they draw nearer to what could be the key to unraveling another piece of the puzzle of Voldemort's immortality. He feels the hair on the back of his neck prickle, a familiar sense of urgency washing over him. This isn't just an ordinary spot. This place has power, ancient, untapped power. The discovery of this site fits perfectly with their ongoing quest. As Hermione flips through the dusty pages of their books on dark magic, she shares her theories with the others. The ruins are not just a relic of the past, but a possible location where one of Voldemort's Horcruxes could be hidden. The more they learn about the Dark Wizard's obsession with immortality, the more they realize that these sites, steeped in old magic, might have been the perfect places for him to hide fragments of his soul. What better way to safeguard something so precious than by using the ancient, forgotten magic of the wizarding world, the very magic that few in their generation even comprehend? Ron, ever the skeptic, isn't so sure. The idea of a Horcrux hidden in a ruin seems almost too perfect. "We're not even sure what we're looking for," he mutters, his voice tinged with doubt. But Hermione is determined. She knows that every lead, no matter how small or obscure, brings them closer to their goal. Harry, however, is focused. He understands that they can't afford to let anything slip by. Every step they take could either bring them closer to victory or closer to defeat. It's when they step into the heart of the ruins that they are faced with a surprising obstacle. The ancient walls, covered in runes and symbols long forgotten, begin to shimmer with an ominous glow. The ground shifts beneath their feet, and the very air seems to vibrate with energy. Without warning, a magical barrier erupts from the stone, surrounding them in an almost impenetrable force field. The trio is thrown back, caught off guard by the sheer intensity of the barrier's magic. The force of it is unlike anything they've encountered before, almost as if the ruins themselves are alive, defending their secrets. For a moment, fear strikes Harry's heart. The thought crosses his mind that they might be too late, that whatever magic is protecting the site could be more powerful than any of them could handle, but Harry doesn't hesitate. He has learned through every battle and every moment of fear that the key to victory is not in retreat, but in understanding the forces at play. He takes a deep breath, his wand held steady in his hand, his mind racing with possibilities. The barrier is more than just a defense, it's a test, a trial set by the ancient magic that protects the ruin's secrets. Hermione, ever the scholar, begins analysing the symbols that cover the stone walls. She mutters to herself, her fingers tracing the markings as she compares them to the ancient texts she's studied. These symbols, they're not just defensive spells, she says, her voice low but filled with certainty. They're part of a puzzle, a lock, a key to the magic that binds this place together. Harry listens, trusting Hermione's insight. The runes, though old, seem to carry a message, one that is only decipherable through the right knowledge of ancient magic. With Ron keeping watch, Harry focuses his energy on the barrier, attempting to understand its structure. He feels the magic thrumming beneath his fingers, but it's like trying to break through a wall made of shadow and light. The barrier isn't just physical, it's a manifestation of the magic itself, woven into the fabric of the ruin. It's not about brute force, it's about comprehension. Harry knows this now, and with the realization, he starts to unravel the spell layer by layer, understanding its purpose, its origin, its true nature. The moment Harry's wand touches the barrier, a surge of power courses through him. He has unlocked something powerful, and as the magic recedes, the ruins themselves seem to sigh, releasing the tension that has held them bound for centuries. The barrier dissipates, leaving nothing but the quiet hum of ancient magic in its wake. The trio stands in stunned silence, their breaths shallow from the effort, but they have done it. They have uncovered the magic, revealed the key, and in doing so, they have taken another step toward discovering what Voldemort has hidden away. The importance of this scene, though absent from the final cut of the film, lies in how it enriches the story's narrative. The discovery of the ruins, the encounter with the magical barrier, and the eventual success in overcoming the challenge reinforce a core theme of the series, the importance of knowledge, both ancient and modern, in the fight against darkness. The scene also illustrates the depth of the trio's bond and their growth as individuals. While they have faced physical battles before, this moment underscores the mental and emotional fortitude required to win the war against Voldemort. In the final film, this scene might have been one of the most powerful visual representations of the ongoing struggle between the past and the present. The ruins themselves serve as a metaphor for the wizarding world's hidden history, a history that can only be uncovered by those who dare to search, to question, to challenge the old ways. The magical barrier, in its complexity, is not just a test of their magical abilities, but of their resolve, their willingness to face the unknown, and their understanding that victory will not come through sheer force, but through the application of wisdom and bravery. The potential of this scene was vast. Imagine, if you will, the atmosphere as the trio stands in the heart of the ruins. The air thick with magic, the walls covered in runes that glow with ancient energy, and the barrier that stands between them and the truth. The tension is palpable, the stakes high. As Harry approaches the magical barrier, he isn't just walking into a trap. He's walking into a moment that could change everything. The scene would have provided another layer of complexity to the story, offering a glimpse into the wizarding world's rich, magical history. It could have reminded the audience of the depths of magic that go beyond the scope of what they've seen before. In the end, this scene, though left on the cutting room floor, encapsulates a crucial aspect of the Harry Potter series, its exploration of the past, its connection to ancient magic, and the eternal struggle between knowledge and ignorance. The ruins, the magical barrier, and the triumphant moment of discovery all serve to remind the audience that the war against Voldemort is not just fought with wands and spells, but with the wisdom of the ages and the courage to face the unknown. Number 24, Ron and his fears. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the adaptation of J.K. Rowling's final novel into film introduces a vast array of challenges for the filmmakers. With such a dense and emotionally charged story, decisions had to be made about which scenes to include and which to leave out. Among the scenes that were ultimately omitted from the film, one stands out as a powerful moment that could have added significant emotional depth to Ron Weasley's character. This deleted scene shows a side of Ron that was often hidden behind his humorous, sometimes self-deprecating persona, his deep fears and insecurities. These fears, particularly his fear of inadequacy in the face of the monumental task ahead, are explored in a brief but poignant moment, one that could have drastically altered how we understand him in the story. In the original scene, Ron is not the carefree, sarcastic friend that audiences often see, but a young man wrestling with self-doubt. As Harry and Hermione embark on the difficult and dangerous mission to destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes, Ron is burdened by the feeling that he cannot contribute to their success in the way they can. Harry is the chosen one, the hero with the destiny to defeat the Dark Lord, and Hermione is the brilliant strategist whose intellect often saves the day. Ron, meanwhile, is filled with the fear that he is merely a sidekick, a tag-along, someone who doesn't belong in the same league as his two closest friends. Ron's feelings of inadequacy are exacerbated by his perception of the situation. The trio is on the run, hunted by the Death Eaters, living in constant danger. Their journey is a testing ground, demanding not only physical bravery, but also emotional resilience. Ron's inner turmoil becomes more apparent as he confesses that he has always followed Harry and Hermione, unsure of his own place in their quest. The gravity of the situation hits him hard. What if, at some point, his courage runs out? What if he's not strong enough to face what lies ahead? In this scene, Ron reveals his deepest fear, his fear of failure, not just for himself, but for his friends. He worries that despite all his good intentions, he might not be able to live up to the expectations of his family and friends. He cannot help but compare himself to Harry, who is constantly thrust into the limelight, and Hermione, whose intelligence and resourcefulness often outshine his own. Throughout the series, Ron has often found himself in the shadow of his more illustrious friends, and in this moment of vulnerability, he admits that he is afraid of being left behind, of not being able to contribute to the final victory over Voldemort. This fear is not new to Ron, nor is it an isolated moment in the series. From the very beginning, Ron has struggled with feelings of inadequacy, particularly when compared to his siblings. As the youngest son in a large, loving family, Ron has always felt overshadowed by his brothers, especially the talented Bill, Charlie, and Percy. At Hogwarts, he is constantly aware of how much more accomplished Harry and Hermione are. In the Philosopher's Stone, Ron is envious of Harry's fame and the admiration that comes with it. By the time of the Half-Blood Prince, Ron's insecurities have become more pronounced, especially in his relationship with Lavender Brown, where he finds himself in a role he feels ill-equipped for, being the object of affection. But in the Deathly Hallows, the stakes are higher. This time, Ron is not just a spectator to the drama of Harry's life. He is an active participant in a dangerous, world-altering mission. As they journey through the countryside, Ron can no longer ignore the reality of the task before them. He sees himself as less than capable, a follower rather than a leader. The most significant challenge for him is not fighting the Death Eaters or dodging curses. It is facing his own fear that he might not be strong enough to see the mission through to the end. The emotional weight of this scene would have been a game changer for the film. Ron has always been the source of comic relief, often deflecting the tension of the situation with humor and sarcasm. This has sometimes led audiences to underestimate his depth as a character. But this deleted scene would have allowed viewers to see that beneath his jokes and his bravado, Ron is a deeply caring individual who struggles with the same fears and doubts as anyone else. His fear is not about physical danger, it is about failing the people he loves, particularly Harry, who has always been there for him. The emotional impact of this deleted scene would have amplified the scene later in the book when Ron returns to the group after abandoning them. In the film, Ron's departure from Harry and Hermione can seem sudden, as if his decision to leave was a mere plot device. But with the inclusion of this deleted scene, Ron's return would have been more powerful, more resonant. His journey from self-doubt to self-acceptance is at the heart of his character arc. His emotional struggle is not just about defeating the Dark Lord, but about proving to himself that he is worthy of standing alongside his friends. By showing his inner fears, the scene would have made his return all the more significant, transforming it from a plot necessity into a deeply emotional moment. One of the most striking aspects of this deleted scene is Ron's vulnerability. In the Deathly Hallows, he has always been presented as the strong, loyal friend, but here we see a side of him that is raw and unguarded. This moment of emotional honesty would have added layers to his character, allowing the audience to see him as more than just the comic relief. It would have painted him as someone who, despite his fear and self-doubt, finds the courage to continue the fight. The image of Ron struggling with the idea that he is not enough is a poignant reminder that bravery is not always about charging into battle. Sometimes it is about confronting your own weaknesses and fears. Ron's journey in the Deathly Hallows is a journey of growth. The deleted scene would have been an essential part of that growth. It would have highlighted the complexity of his character, allowing viewers to better understand why he struggles with his role in the battle against Voldemort. For Ron, the final confrontation is not just about overcoming external threats, but about confronting his own internal battles. By giving him this moment of introspection, the filmmakers would have made Ron's eventual triumph over his own insecurities even more impactful. Ultimately, the decision to cut this scene was likely made for pacing and narrative reasons, as it might have slowed down the action-heavy parts of the film. However, the emotional payoff of this scene would have been substantial, enriching Ron's character and giving the audience a deeper understanding of the internal challenges he faces. Ron's fear of not being enough, of failing his friends, is a universal feeling that resonates with many. By showing this, the filmmakers could have humanized Ron even more, adding layers to his character that are often overlooked in the film adaptations. Though the scene was not included in the final film, the essence of Ron's emotional journey is still present in the movie. However, without the scene where he openly admits his fears, the full extent of his internal struggle is not fully realized. This deleted moment would have offered the audience a chance to connect with Ron in a way that was not possible through the other scenes. His emotional vulnerability would have elevated the story, adding a depth of humanity to a character who, for much of the series, is seen primarily as the loyal, somewhat bumbling sidekick. In the end, Ron's character is a testament to the idea that bravery comes in many forms. It is not just about defeating monsters or fighting dark forces. Sometimes it is about facing the demons within. The deleted scene would have allowed Ron's journey to be seen in this light, and while it may not have been included in the final film, it remains an important part of his story, one that fans can continue to appreciate through the pages of the book and the depths of his character. Number 25. The Trap in Beverly. In the scene that was ultimately cut from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the trio finds themselves trapped in an old, forgotten house in Beverly, an area familiar to few. The house stands as a remnant of a bygone era, filled with dust, shadows, and the looming presence of danger. Harry, Ron, and Hermione had been evading Death Eaters for days, constantly on the move, unsure of where to turn next. They thought they had found some temporary safety in this forgotten house, but as the hours stretched on, the shadows outside grew darker and the sound of distant footsteps began to close in. It wasn't long before the Death Eaters arrived. Led by the malevolent Bellatrix Lestrange, the trap was sprung, and it was clear that there was no way out. The scene begins with the trio rushing into the dimly lit house, their hearts racing with the constant fear that the Death Eaters were just moments away. As they darted through narrow hallways, dodging the curses cast in their direction, they came to realize the house wasn't as empty as it seemed. The floors creaked underfoot, and the old walls seemed to groan with each passing breath of wind. Harry could feel his heart in his throat as he glanced over at Hermione, who was doing her best to protect them with spells, her face tense with the effort. But despite their best efforts, the house was closing in on them. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. As the dark figures loomed closer, Harry could feel the suffocating grip of fear tightening. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, the situation took an unexpected turn. The first of the old wizards appeared out of the shadows. It was Rufus Scrimgeour, the former Minister of Magic, who had quietly disappeared after the fall of the Ministry. He had not abandoned the fight, and now, standing in the dark corners of that cursed house, he was ready to make his stand. Behind him, a number of older wizards emerged, some of them recognizable, others unfamiliar, but all bound by a shared purpose to resist the darkness that threatened to consume the wizarding world. The arrival of these seasoned wizards is one of the film's most tragic missed opportunities. In the book, the old wizards' arrival marks a pivotal moment in the fight against Voldemort's forces. The wizards, who had once been influential in their own right, were not content to simply hide away. Their wisdom and experience brought a powerful, new dynamic to the trio's resistance. Each one, from Scrimgeour to the lesser-known but equally powerful wizards like Elphias Doge and Bathilda Bagshot, added their might to the fight. In a world where power had often been dictated by youth, status, and bloodlines, their involvement was a significant reminder that true strength could come from any corner of the wizarding world. For Harry, it was a moment of realization. The older wizards, whose names had long been whispered in the annals of magical history, were no longer relics of the past, but vital players in the current war. They were more than willing to lay down their lives for the cause, even if it meant standing side by side with those they had once considered rivals. The fight against the Death Eaters had become a battle of ideals, one that transcended individual conflicts and personal grievances. Now, more than ever, Harry understood the importance of unity and the need to work together, no matter the differences or past betrayals. The battle that followed was a ferocious clash of light and dark, spells flying in every direction, the sound of curses echoing through the crumbling house. The Death Eaters were relentless, but the older wizards fought with the desperation and fervor of those who had lived through the rise and fall of multiple regimes. They weren't interested in fame or glory, they were interested in survival. Together with Harry and his friends, they were able to push back the attackers, forcing them into retreat. The Death Eaters, taken by surprise at the strength of the resistance, were forced to regroup, The fight wasn't over, but it was a significant victory. For Harry, the sight of the old wizards in action was both humbling and awe-inspiring. Watching them fight with such determination made him realize how much he still had to learn, not just about magic, but about life. These wizards were the remnants of an older generation, one that had fought wars of their own and had learned the true cost of such battles. Their strength wasn't just in their spells, but in their unwavering commitment to the cause. For Harry, it was a lesson he would carry with him for the rest of his life. The old wizards, as diverse as they were, represented different facets of magical society. Some had been part of the establishment, others had been rebels, and a few had been outsiders, but together they were a force to be reckoned with. As the dust settled, Harry couldn't help but think of the bonds that had been forged in that house. He had always believed in the power of friendship, but now he understood that it wasn't just friendship that could save them. It was the unity of all those who shared a common goal, regardless of their pasts or differences. The old wizards had taught him something invaluable. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in standing together, even when it feels impossible. As Harry stood there, watching the older wizards direct their wands against the Death Eaters, he couldn't help but think of the sacrifices they had made. These were men and women who had seen the darkest corners of the wizarding world and had lived to tell the tale. Now they were here, fighting not for their own glory but for the future of a world they had fought so hard to protect. Their willingness to stand alongside Harry and his friends was a testament to their courage and resolve. It was a reminder that the fight against darkness was not just about defeating one powerful dark wizard, it was about preserving the very essence of their world, no matter the cost. The moment was fleeting, and the victory was bittersweet, but for Harry it marked a turning point. The battle at Beverley was a reminder that no one was truly alone in this war. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, there was always a chance for victory, provided they were willing to unite and stand firm. The old wizards had proven that. And as Harry watched them stand tall against the forces of darkness, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope for the first time in a long while. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but Harry knew deep down that they were not as alone as they once felt. This cutscene, though brief, would have added depth and meaning to the final stages of Harry's journey. It would have shown the power of unity in the face of adversity, the importance of learning from the past, and the enduring strength of those who fought before. It would have given the audience a glimpse of the older generation of wizards who had been sidelined in the films and showcased their invaluable contribution to the final battle. By including this scene, the filmmakers could have highlighted the power of collective action and the importance of standing together, no matter how different the individuals involved might seem. This subtle yet powerful moment would have made Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows an even richer story, one that emphasized the importance of unity, bravery, and the enduring fight against darkness. Number 26. Magical plants and their power. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the final installment of the epic saga, the stakes are higher than ever. The trio, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, are facing one of their greatest challenges, not just to survive, but to ultimately destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes and defeat the Dark Lord once and for all. As the trio embarks on their perilous journey, they rely on their individual strengths and magical knowledge to survive. In the book, one of the more fascinating aspects of Hermione's expertise is her deep knowledge of magical plants, a subject she has long studied with great interest. Yet, in the movie adaptation, a crucial scene involving magical plants was cut, a decision that many fans of the book believe significantly altered the richness of the narrative. This missing scene would have illuminated a vital aspect of Hermione's character, her intellectual prowess, and provided a deeper understanding of how magic could be used to save lives in moments of intense danger. The scene itself, one in which Hermione introduces a magical plant capable of saving them from poisons, would have not only reinforced the trio's resourcefulness but also showcased the intricate depth of the wizarding world that J.K. Rowling created. In the book, Hermione is portrayed as a walking encyclopedia of magic, a skill that often comes to the fore when her friends find themselves in a tight spot. Her knowledge of magical plants, for instance, is vast and varied. When the trio sets out on their quest, they are constantly confronted by new dangers, both magical and physical. One of the more important aspects of survival in the wizarding world is the knowledge of plants and their uses in potion making. This is where Hermione's expertise shines, as she can identify and understand the properties of various magical flora. However, in the movie, the audience doesn't get to see the full extent of this knowledge. The particular scene that was cut involves Hermione sharing her knowledge about a glowing plant which she had packed with them. In a tense moment when the trio is grappling with the dangers that lie ahead, Hermione reveals a fascinating magical plant. The plant's leaves glow in the dark, a feature that instantly piques their interest. Hermione explains that this plant could save their lives as its properties make it an antidote to poison. The glow it emits isn't just for show, it has magical healing properties that could counteract even the deadliest toxins, but, as Hermione warns them, its use is delicate. If handled incorrectly, the plant could cause more harm than good. It is a clear moment where her cautious nature and precise knowledge of magic come into play. Hermione knows that in their desperate situation, it's not just about surviving, it's about surviving with care, precision, and knowledge. The omission of this scene in the movie is significant because it underscores one of the themes of the book, that knowledge and wisdom are powerful tools in the fight against evil. While Harry and Ron are undeniably brave, it is Hermione who constantly brings the intellectual rigor needed to solve the most challenging problems they encounter. Her love for magical plants, a hobby she has long cultivated, plays a crucial role in this. In this scene, the plant serves as a symbol of her character's depth and how magic, when properly understood, can be a source of salvation. In the film, Hermione's expertise in magical plants is briefly referenced, but it lacks the depth and significance it has in the book. The movie touches on her skill in potion making and mentions the importance of her knowledge, but it doesn't give her the chance to demonstrate it in the way the book does. Without this scene, the film misses the opportunity to show the intricacies of magical flora and how their properties could be used in life or death situations. The plant that glows in the dark, which could have provided a way for the trio to survive a deadly poison, is a perfect example of how magic in the wizarding world extends far beyond the obvious spells and charms. It is also a reminder that Hermione's talents are not only in her ability to cast spells, but also in her deep, thoughtful study of magical theory and application. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, plants like this one are an example of the kind of subtle magic that is often overlooked in the rush to focus on more dramatic spells and duels. The magical world is one that thrives on the balance between nature, knowledge, and power, and this plant is a perfect representation of that delicate balance. By cutting this scene, the film loses an opportunity to reinforce how essential knowledge and preparation are in their battle against dark forces. It also diminishes Hermione's role as the strategist, the planner, and the one who often saves the day through intellect rather than brute force. Moreover, the scene would have highlighted the theme of trust among the trio. Hermione is the one who knows about this plant, and by sharing her knowledge with Harry and Ron, she not only helps them prepare for what lies ahead, but also deepens the bond of friendship between them. In the context of the entire story, their trust in one another is one of the cornerstones of their survival. Each of them has moments where their strength lies in their ability to contribute in unique ways, and Hermione's knowledge of magical plants is one of the many ways she helps ensure that they don't merely survive, they do so with care, precision, and the wisdom she's accumulated over the years. In the book, it's clear that magical plants aren't just a background element, but rather an essential part of the wizarding world's ecosystem. From the mandrakes to the devil's snare, J.K. Rowling uses plants to demonstrate the wide range of magical tools available to witches and wizards. The plants are often living entities with their own rules and behaviors, and this subtle form of magic often requires a deeper understanding to be wielded correctly. The glowing plant Hermione mentions is just one of many examples in the book where magic is used with a level of scientific understanding. The plants are not just tools for spellcasting, they are living things that demand respect and careful handling. If this scene had been included in the film, it would have further emphasized the importance of the trio's journey, not just as a physical one, but as an intellectual and emotional journey as well. Hermione's character is grounded in her love for learning, her unwavering sense of responsibility, and her constant quest for knowledge. By cutting this scene, the film misses an opportunity to showcase how these qualities help the trio navigate the perilous world they inhabit. Without this additional scene, Hermione's character in the film becomes less of a wise figure and more of a mere sidekick to Harry, a missed opportunity for the filmmakers to fully capture the essence of her role in the books. The glowing plant, like the other magical plants Hermione studies, also serves to reinforce the theme of nature's power in the wizarding world. Plants in the Harry Potter series are more than just ingredients for potions. They represent the ancient, mysterious magic that exists outside of wands and spells. They remind us that magic isn't something that can always be controlled or understood immediately. It's something that takes time, patience, and respect to truly master. Hermione's understanding of this plant and her careful handling of it would have illustrated this concept perfectly. In conclusion, the cutscene involving the magical plant in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows would have added significant depth to the story, particularly in terms of highlighting Hermione's knowledge and her role as the intellectual force behind the trio's success. It would have reinforced the idea that magic is not only about casting spells, but also about understanding the world around you and using that knowledge wisely. By omitting this scene, the film loses a chance to showcase the subtler aspects of the wizarding world and Hermione's essential role in the battle against evil. Number 27, The Curse at the Ministry of Magic. In the final moments of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Harry, Hermione, and Ron are thrust into a world of danger and darkness that tests their friendship, loyalty, and bravery like never before. Amidst the urgency of their mission to find the Horcruxes and defeat Voldemort, there is a particular moment in the story that resonates deeply with the reader, one that was unfortunately cut from the final film, but could have significantly deepened the narrative and heightened the stakes for the trio. This moment occurs within the Ministry of Magic, where the trio comes face to face with an ancient and terrifying curse, a curse that holds within it the very essence of Voldemort's dark power. The scene in question is set in the heart of the Ministry, a place that, for all its bureaucratic power, is also haunted by the darker, hidden side of magic. As Harry and his friends delve deeper into the Ministry, they encounter a malevolent force, a curse that feeds off the hidden fears and emotions buried deep within their hearts. It's an enchantment so potent that it doesn't simply target them physically, it attacks their very souls. This curse is different from any magic they have encountered before, representing a pinnacle of dark magic created by none other than Voldemort himself. The significance of this curse lies not only in its mystical power but in its personal nature. It doesn't just threaten their lives, it threatens their innermost selves. The moment the curse engulfs them, the air becomes thick and oppressive, as though the very atmosphere is alive with a malevolent force. The curse doesn't act like a typical dark spell, one that can be countered with a simple incantation. Instead, it manipulates their deepest insecurities, exploiting the very things they fear the most. It is a test of both their strength and their emotional resilience, one that pushes them to the brink. For Harry, the curse is a reflection of his constant battle with his past, the guilt he feels for the loss of loved ones, particularly his parents. For Ron, the curse plays on his feelings of inadequacy and his fear of always being in the shadow of his brothers. And for Hermione, the curse threatens to expose her deepest secret, her fear of not being enough despite her immense talent and intelligence. This emotional depth is what makes the curse so terrifying. It's not just a spell, it's a window into their very souls, magnifying their weaknesses in the most painful way. But the true brilliance of this moment lies in how each of them responds to the curse. The trio is not simply faced with a magic they cannot understand. They are forced to confront their darkest fears in a very real and tangible way. The curse challenges them to dig deep within themselves and find the strength to overcome it. It is a test of their friendship as they rely on one another to stay grounded and strong in the face of overwhelming darkness. They are not merely fighting to survive. They are fighting to protect the very essence of who they are. In that moment, they are not just facing a magical foe, they are facing themselves, their vulnerabilities, and the things that hold them back. The bravery shown in this scene is what makes it so compelling. There is a profound transformation in the way the trio views each other. They are no longer just comrades on a dangerous mission. They become a unit, bound together by their shared struggles and triumphs. The curse forces them to be vulnerable with one another in ways that words cannot capture. There are no grand speeches or heroic declarations. It is in the quiet moments, the small acts of courage, that they show their true strength. They are not perfect. They have flaws, weaknesses, and doubts, but it is these very imperfections that make them human, and ultimately what makes them capable of overcoming the curse. The magic that fuels the curse is a reflection of the dark rituals Voldemort has spent his life perfecting. It is a perfect example of how his magic is not just about power or control, it's about manipulation and destruction on the deepest levels. This curse is not just a tool to hurt others, it is a weapon designed to unravel the very essence of the victim. It forces them to confront their inner demons, making them question their worth and their place in the world. It's a twisted, cruel reminder of the kind of dark magic Voldemort has mastered, the kind of magic that doesn't just break the body but destroys the soul. This scene is important not only for the insights it provides into the nature of Voldemort's magic, but also for the way it enhances the overall theme of the story. Throughout the Harry Potter series, we have seen characters struggle with their identities, their fears, and their pasts. Harry, Ron, and Hermione have all faced moments where they've had to come to terms with who they are and what they believe in. But the curse in the Ministry is different. It is not just a test of their individual courage, it is a test of their ability to remain true to themselves in the face of overwhelming darkness. It challenges them to dig deep, to confront their fears head-on, and to rely on each other for support. The strength they show in overcoming the curse is a testament to how far they have come as individuals and as friends. The decision to cut this scene from the final film was undoubtedly a difficult one, but it is one that left a significant gap in the story. The film version, while thrilling and action-packed, misses the emotional depth that this moment could have added. By omitting the curse in the ministry, the filmmakers missed an opportunity to explore the psychological and emotional toll of Voldemort's magic in a more profound way. It would have added another layer of complexity to the trio's journey, highlighting not just their physical bravery, but their emotional growth as well. The curse, after all, is a reflection of the very magic Voldemort uses to control others. It's not just about physical power, but about the manipulation of emotions, memories, and fears. By confronting this curse, the trio would have had to confront the very essence of what makes them vulnerable, and in doing so they would have emerged even stronger. In addition to the personal growth the scene would have provided, the curse also offered a unique opportunity to further explore the nature of Voldemort's magic. Throughout the series, we have seen glimpses of his twisted abilities, his mastery of the dark arts, his ability to control minds, and his penchant for using fear as a weapon. The curse in the ministry would have added to this understanding, showing just how far Voldemort is willing to go to break his enemies. His magic is not simply about brute force, it's about creating fear, doubt, and uncertainty in the hearts of others. It's a manipulation of the mind as much as it is of the body, and the curse would have showcased this in a visceral, emotional way. Ultimately, this scene highlights the central theme of the series, the importance of friendship and loyalty in the face of darkness. Harry, Ron, and Hermione's ability to confront their deepest fears and still stand by each other is what makes them such compelling heroes. Their strength doesn't come from their magical abilities, but from their bond with one another and their unwavering commitment to their cause. The curse in the ministry is a physical manifestation of this struggle, one that forces them to confront not just the world around them, but the darkness within themselves. In overcoming it, they prove that the greatest power lies not in magic, but in the strength of their hearts. The deleted scene would have been a powerful addition to the film, offering fans a deeper understanding of the trio's inner lives and the true extent of Voldemort's malevolent influence. It would have highlighted the emotional complexity of the characters and given viewers a more intimate look at the personal struggles that define them. Ultimately, this scene serves as a reminder that the battle between good and evil is not just fought with wands and spells, it is fought with the strength of the human spirit, the bonds of friendship, and the courage to face one's deepest fears. The curse in the ministry is a reflection of the darkness that lies within us all, and it is only through facing that darkness that we can truly overcome it.